Yep, we're live to review day 3 of the only test between India and Australia, and I'm proud of the fact that I finally got that right on the first go. But yeah, yet another riveting, play of day's cricket. I mean, was that right? Was yet another riveting day of plays cricket? All right, I don't think that's right. I'm pretty sure that's not right. It's all right because that's how bad it's been for us as India fans. We expected a lot more wickets, to be honest, and in all fairness, I also thought that the game would be done, by 5 p.m. today. Wasn't to be the case. Australia coming up with a fantastic fight back. I mean, 233 for 5 is what they've ended up with at stumps in day 3. Something I didn't see coming. I genuinely thought कि बस आज इंडिया कम से कम 450-500 तो बना लेगा. उसके बाद ऑस्ट्रेलिया को 100 के अंदर ऑल आउट भी कर देगा. अरे हम तो जीत जाएंगे भाई. Australia clearly showing why they are the team to beat when it comes to women's cricket, Test cricket in particular. Again, alien conditions, not played here in over 40 years. None of that really came to matter because when the time came, they were here to deliver. We've got Shomi, we've got Neha. Hello, guys. Shomi, let's start with you. Not exactly the way we thought it would go, right, today?
Not really, but it was such an intriguing day of Test cricket. Third day, it just lived up to its hype. And I know, as Indian cricket fans, it's not what we had expected. But as people who really genuinely want female cricket to prosper, I think this was absolutely hitting on the top because we somehow didn't want a 3 day test match or a 4 day test match anymore. This completely justifies why women's test match should go up to a 5 day. And I think from that point of view, absolutely, I'm enthralled by the day's cricket. Over to you, Neha. How was your day?
I mean, I completely agree with you on this because the way the test match was unfolding, they were like, advantage India. India is easily going to, wrap this test up in 3 days. But I think it really showed the grit and determination of Australia, right? They ensured this was not going to be a lopsided contest. Within 35 minutes, India ko out kiya for 406. We were predicting 430, 450 and all yesterday. And they came into bat, Beth Mooney and, Phoebe Litchfield giving that brisk start, and credits to them for that. And we saw how Beth Mooney got run out, which was quite interesting, right? Like, I think on the comms, they were like, yeah, that was a lucky run out. But I think that was a very strategic, and you could see how Richa Ghosh really was thinking on her feet, right, to get that kind of a run out. And Beth Mooney was so devastated because she knew the wicket was getting better to bat on, and this could have been that perfect moment, but it was not to be. And then we saw the partnerships, right? Elise Perry, Talia Megra, everyone, just coming to the party, the kind of partnerships they were stitching. As Shami rightly said, as a test cricket fans, you love to see scenes like that where, India is not completely dominating. You have a fight coming in from Australia as well. So all in all, it was a great, day's play that really sets up day 4 to, be a cracker of a match and actually, hopefully get a result.
Fair enough. You mentioned a bunch of names there. I mean, to begin with, in the first session, we of course saw the Australian Pacers clean up whatever was left of the Indian batting. Again, Annabelle Sutherland, very shrewd with those short balls and the way she got both Pooja and Renuka, if I'm not wrong, it was great to watch. And Kim got Deepthi, and unfortunately, she didn't get to her century. Something that we were also hoping for. Kam se kam ek centurion to not to be the case. Yeah, you mentioned, of course, Beth Mooney's run out. I mean, it's a proper disease. How often do you see 3 days, 3 openers get run out? And this was definitely the most hilarious of them all. I wouldn't really call it lucky. If anything, it was the Harmanpreet run out from the first innings, or was it the previous game? Right now, my mind's in a bit of a mess. It's the first test, right? Yeah, it was in the previous test. Of course, it was the previous test. Yeah. But that was lucky because, I mean, you couldn't really blame her, for her bat getting stuck in the ground. Come on, man. Just give some credit to Richa Ghosh. That was fantastic. Alertness shown on the field. Very shrewd of her. Something not expected off your forward shot leg. But yeah, she was there and she got that wicket for us. That was great to watch. Phoebe Litchfield as well to begin with started off really well. But yeah, unfortunately got out at the wrong time, for Australia. Lot of partnerships. Almost everyone got off the starts. Like the fact that Phoebe Litchfield was the lowest scorer in this innings so far, 18. That too goes on to show that they were very clear. Ki boss, टिक के रहना है बस. Let's just stay there. Let's just get stuck in there. Let's just play balls. That was their tactic. And Neha, let's start with you when it comes to that, because of course it began with that partnership between Migra and Elise Perry. But even then, even the openers, they knew ki boss, it's all about just staying there, just not giving your wicket away. They were happy to grind it out. Just talk us through, how they went about this.
So, of course, Australia was able to get that advantage right at the start of the day's play. I mean, dismissing India for 406. Now, with Beth Mooney and Phoebe Litchfield, we see a very, strong and formidable duo. Right at the top of the order, they not just lend you a lot of solidity, but that confidence as well. Ki boss, we are here to score runs. We will definitely do that. Even though Phoebe Litchfield was taking her time to understand the conditions and not just, start smashing from ball one, we saw how Beth Mooney was just, in her groove, right? Had she stayed for a little longer, I'm pretty sure we would have seen a probably a century or an even better, knock coming from her side. But with this duo, somewhere I think Australia is looking to, counteract that Indian pace attack, because Renuka and Pooja were not getting their lengths right, and somewhere you could see that panic coming in with Harmanpreet as well. Ki, Arey, should I get in those spinners and try to enforce that some change, and with that run out, of course, it was a good breakthrough that we got. But then you see how Elise Perry and Talia Megra come in later and stitch that partnership as well. So today, I think Australia's mindset was, we are not going to be on the back foot. We're trying to, get something out of this game, and not just be that opposition to India, and actually present a fight. And I think with Beth Mooney and Phoebe Litchfield, we got an indication of sorts.
Show me again. Same question to you as well. Australia's batting, of course, there's lots to talk about. Everyone did well, did chip in. Everyone also knew कि boss थोड़ा और खेलते हैं ताकि पूरा दिन हम लोग साथ में खेल पाए. Happy with, I mean, again, as a neutral, at least it's hard to put yourself in the shoes of a neutral fan, given that we will have our biases. But again, just as a lover of women's cricket, do you think you were happy with what you saw there? Because that was fantastic batting there.
Absolutely fantastic. Also, going back to the point that, from where we started, we were expecting a 450, 430, 450 odd. And we all knew it was the third day of the game, and the pitch was supposed to behave the way it was behaving. To come out there with a clear plan, with so much of tactics, and get your pacers right away and playing to your strength, I think that was absolutely showed what Australia is all about. And that's where I loved Healy's captaincy there, that they absolutely played to their strength. And then from there, within the next 45 minutes, within the next 7.5 hours, to completely clean sweep India's tail, I think that spoke volumes. Of course, in spite of that, around 180, 190 odd runs of lead, that was pretty much intimidating. We knew that in Australia would come. I mean, when they came out to bat, they pretty much knew that they will have to stick around and kind of stick their ground there and play along. What I felt was Litchfield, of course, she was coming in with a diamond duck in the baggage as a baggage. So, of course, she was a little restrictive right in the beginning. But yeah, she was gradually coming into play when she got out. When it came to Mooney, I think Mooney was playing fabulously. I mean, I think she had she had hit some 7-8 fours in that small, a short span of that innings. So I think she showed a lot of intent. She showed that attacking brand of cricket, and that was really enthralling to watch. When it comes to Test cricket and when it comes to such a exciting contest. It just felt stupid at that point of time when that brain fit happened. But you gotta give it to the girl. You gotta give it to India for having that presence of mind. After that, when Perry came out, of course, it was maybe India would have thought, or we as Indian fans would have thought, that it'll be it'll just fold like a deck of cards. But they are very experienced campaigners. We have to give it to them. They were supposed to play the way they did. And Australia is well known for kind of coming back when their back is against the wall. So I think that's what showed their character. Very, very excited about how the game is unfolding, honestly. Those partnerships, the way they have built up. At a point of time, it was pretty much that Australia will take a huge lead. And that's when India again came back. I mean, how much more interesting a test match can get?
Exactly, and that's the beauty of Test cricket, right? It just keeps oscillating. The luck just keeps fluctuating from one end to another. You mentioned, of course, Elise Perry. That was a proper masterclass in batting against spin, man. Right? Again, it's just so good to watch, because you've seen this often enough on the men's side of things. But again, to get to see that here as well, Neha, like Perry's innings in particular, for me, I don't know why, because that just seemed she seemed so sure. She seemed so adept at playing spin. And again, playing in conditions she hasn't really played enough before when it comes to red ball cricket. Was so good to watch, right?
Absolutely, because Elise Perry, when Beth Mooney and Phoebe Litchfield were batting, she was in the dugout ready with all her pads and everything. This time I'm going to undo all the damage of that first inning. She was sort, man. She had a point to prove, and I felt like this innings, even though it was just like 45 of those 91 balls, we really saw how she got to each ball, played the ball to its merit. I mean, she struck those boundaries, like 5 boundaries in her innings as well. And it was like Talia Megra was at the other end, right? And you could see how there was like, I mean, a lot of people think Talia Megra is like her successor of sorts, but seeing the two, go back together, and they were complementing each other so well. So in that sense, it was just lovely to see how that partnership was blossoming. And for a lot of us Indian fans who are also Elise Perry fans, a weird thing there, but it was great to see her, right, get into that groove, score some crucial runs. And she's always a delight to watch, the way she goes about with her processes and gets those runs. It was, of course, a very interesting phase of play. Like the Indians were throwing everything at her, and she's, playing the spin, when really kind of showing how she's that perfect player who can play pace and spin, even though, the Indians were plotting to get her out. So quite impressed with her knock, but I really want to see her get to a century, but that is not the case today.
Yeah, definitely not the case today. And I mean, we've seen this throughout this test match so far. Practically every other batter, if not every batter, has gotten off to great starts, but none of them have really kicked on to sort of score something substantial. I'm not sure what the case is. I mean, I genuinely hope कि कम से कम एक तो century देखने को मिलेगा, which seems unlikely right now, unless, Annabelle Sutherland decides to prove me wrong tomorrow, which, yeah, fingers crossed, should not be the case, because I would also want to see Team India win, and that would probably come above this. But again, batting हमने बात किया. Let's also talk a bit about India's bowling itself. We saw in the first session, Annabelle Sutherland and Kim Garth clean up the tail. And I genuinely thought, boss, maybe if sort of India decides, or Indian pacers rather, Pooja and Renuka, oh my goodness, all of a sudden I just drew a blank there. But yeah, if Pooja and Renuka sort of, mimicked or replicated what Annabelle and Kim did in that final session, I mean, in the first session, in the final overs of the first session, probably we have something that even they can sort of get some more movement. They can also extract some more bounce. Not to be the case. Renuka was still a bit miserly, but both Pooja and Renuka weren't really as penetrative as the other two were in the beginning. Neha, let's start with you about this. Like, do you think this had to do with the lines and lengths that Pooja and Renuka were bowling, or do you think it also had to do with the fact that, they were bowling to Beth Mooney and Phoebe Litchfield? So that definitely makes a difference.
Definitely. And also, I think another factor that we have to look into is Australia, when they were bowling in that last phase. I mean, like at the start of today's play, it was with the old ball, right? So there's still something coming off it. But here we had Renuka and Pooja bowl with that new ball, and the conditions we saw were favoring the batters at that point in time. So somewhere it felt that, even though Beth Mooney and Phoebe Litchfield had like not that great first innings, they had a point to prove in this second innings, and they were able to, negotiate the pace that was generated by both Renuka and Pooja, and it didn't seem something difficult for them. Even the kind of line and length that Renuka and Pooja were bowling was very easy to get those boundaries, get those quick singles as well. So somewhere they were not able to get that, and I also felt Pooja should have been a little more innovative, try to go around the wicket and just swing it in, but somehow she's just still sticking to that specific game plan. So I think that could have like backfired for India big time. And when your pacers are not getting wickets up front, that can actually put a lot of pressure, on the bowling attack as a whole. And even the skipper, thinking of options like, hey, what more can I do? And I think that's when, in the latter phase of the game, we started seeing how spin, became the biggest talking point. Sneh Rana came in and, as usual, weaved magic with her spell. So yeah, it was a case of, the pacers not being able to, deliver those bouncers and not getting the length right.
True. I mean, Shomi, what do you think of that? Because again, we saw Pooja in the first inning. She definitely was able to beat Beth Mooney on bounce and pace. We saw how she got her out with that almost body line-esque bouncer. Not to be the case in the second innings. She like Neha mentioned, stuck to that good length, not back of length, slightly fuller than that. Good length, length, because that's what had worked for her even in the first innings. And that's also something W.V. Raman had spoken about during day one when she was in the middle of that brilliant spell, where because of that, in between length that she tends to target, She gets to move the ball away and into the batter on the same length. So that sort of, gets the batter into a muddle. Maybe you think she sort of really fixated on those lengths a bit too much today when she probably had the chance to go a bit shorter, target the batter's badge or something like that.
Absolutely, she could have been, as Neha mentioned, she could have tried out a little bit more options, and that would have actually startled the batters to an extent. At a point of time, it felt that the batters could actually predict what kind of a ball would come to them. So that definitely made couldn't make she couldn't make a lot of difference there. In fact, the first two wickets just came in as is. It was just a gift of Australia to us. It wasn't really anything that they had created any opportunity. When the opportunities were created, the one where they missed Ellis Perry, the catch of Ellis Perry, then there was one more catch of Magra. So I think those are the kind of opportunities that those were created and those were lost. And then, of course, once the two batters, Ellis Perry and Magra, started playing, there was a lot of discomfort that had settled in the Indian camp, and we could see exactly what we had seen yesterday from Australia. They had kind of startled up. They were trying out different options. Harmanpreet had tried literally everything. Brought in Jemima. She was trying different ends. Everything that was up her sleeves, except for getting herself to bowl, which was a little lost cause for me. I was not understanding why isn't she trying that herself. But yeah, when she came in, she did well and kind of turned the tables. But yeah, I think as Neha mentioned, definitely Pooja could have been a lot more innovative. Also saying that, I also didn't understand that why Harmanpreet, after that first entire spell, why Harmanpreet did hold back Pooja in the next one. Why she was not really brought up right away. Yes, it's true that she didn't that first spell didn't work, but at the same time, she was the one who gave us those breakthroughs in the first innings. So I think maybe a little bit more of confidence there could have helped her. Uh, but yeah, she definitely needs to put up something more.
Definitely, and since you spoke about Herman and that captaincy, I would also sort of go to that as well. That's fan. Sports fan here mentioned Harmanpreet led from the front with the ball after the Aussie fight back. Also, didn't Herman third best bowling figures for India. Third can't say why. Second tha. Deepti is first because of what she did in the last game. If I'm not wrong, Harmanpreet definitely has the best bowling. Second best bowling figures in a Test match. 9 for 85, if I'm not wrong. That is. And yeah, kudos to her. But again, the two ways of looking at this, Neha, right? Because on the one end, you can probably say, Harman led from the front. As a skipper, she took it upon herself to, sort of bowl and all of that. On the other hand, you can probably also sort of look at it in the glass half empty way and say, ki, boss, zarurat thi kya iski? Was she being desperate? Was she being a bit too desperate for her, for our liking at least, we could have probably given Sneh Rana and Deepti Sharma long ago, or even Renuka Thakur long ago. जरूरत थी क्या उनको अपने आप से करने की? Of course, in hindsight, we can see the wickets and all of that, and that's great. But what did you make of that change in particular?
See, I believe it was a smart change because Harmanpreet Kaur, the bowler, right, as an entity, is very underrated. And in Test cricket, we've seen how she's an entirely different bowler. So able to get you wickets. At one point, I really wanted the fans in the stadium to be like Harry Ko bowling though, because I just get yourself in the attack. I really feel we can introduce some change to get that wicket, because the Aussies wouldn't be expecting it, because we were continuously going in with Deepti and Sneh Rana, and although Sneh Rana got wickets, Deepti Sharma was quiet. Her figures are good. Like the economy is like just some 1.58 or something, which was great. She was definitely suffocating runs from the other end, but we needed those wickets, right? And I was like, give Harmanpreet Kaur, just get yourself into the attack. And when she did get herself into the attack, it was great to see her, scalp those wickets. I think somewhere it was a desperation because, as India was seeing the game slip away a little bit, Australia was in control of the proceedings. Maybe introducing this innovation was quite fascinating. And Harmanpreet Kaur, the bowler, should definitely bowl herself more often, I believe, because we've seen, the kind of performances she's had in all the opportunities so far. So although it was a step in taken out of desperation, it turned out well for Team India. But I really hope tomorrow in tandem, they're all able to bowl well together, take those timely wickets and get those breakthroughs, because I think if you allow the likes of Annabel Sutherland and Ash Gardner to settle, the lead is definitely going to read a lot more than 150, which is going to make the chase like some T20 format style stuff. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how she, rotates the bowling tomorrow.
True. And Shomi, do you agree with that in terms of Harman's captaincy and those bowling changes, bringing herself in particular? Like, happy with her? Do you think that she could have stuck to, her usual suspects a bit more? What did you make of that?
I thought she should have come in earlier. In fact, she should have tried bowling herself much earlier. And in the end, when she came in, I think she showed what she can do. I mean, she created an opportunity right with the first ball. Then there was one more wicket in the first over. But yeah, what I was happily or unhappily surprised is to see the aggression. It was probably, we don't know whether it's needed or not needed, but yeah, it kind of reminded me back of that Mitchell Johnson and Kohli episode when she kind of threw the ball. But yeah, I mean, in all goodness, that kind of aggression also led probably Healy to kind of startle down a bit, and thereafter we saw the wicket coming in. So all well, that ends well. Now hoping really that this innings doesn't go a long way, and we kind of can restrict them. So yeah, I think that's my read of it.
I mean, we can only hope for that. Vineet also, meanwhile, says Harman, the bowler, is underrated not only by others but even by her own side, which is actually a fair point because limited overs में तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा कम देखने को मिलता है. Even in the WPL, I don't recollect her bowling a lot. I don't even know if she did because स्मृति ने भी अपने आप को एक ओवर दे दिया था 8 towards the end. Harman was like, रहने दो भाई, we have better bowlers. Let's just stick to that. Let's take this question as well from Vineet. He says this pitch against common prediction is getting better for batting as the days have progressed. I wonder how and why. Neha, let's start with you. Do you first of all agree with this in terms of how the pitch is played? Because of course today, we didn't see a lot of wickets stumble, but agree with this. Like this, has this been the common trend according to you? Ki the pitch has gotten better as the days have progressed.
So as per my initial assessment, I thought it would really get tough, to bat because the cracks would come on, spinners will be able to get a lot more perches from the surface. But somewhere now we see how the batters are kind of adapted to the surface and it's getting easier to bat on, which is going to make India's chase in the fourth innings also quite fascinating. But as far as I knew, like Wankhede, हमने तो देखा है ना how the pitch gets very difficult and the spinners come into play. So in that sense, yes, even I was pleasantly surprised, but I think it has a lot to do with even with the weather conditions right now, no? Because it's like winter-ish. Let's not call it winter entirely, but the temperatures are hovering around that early 20s and stuff. So I think that also has a role to play. But whatever's unfolding right now is interesting and is definitely setting up a match. Right now, India's run chase is going to get interesting because it really depends on the style of play that Australia will adopt. Right? वो क्या करेंगे? शायद they'll bat for another 1 or 2 sessions, or maybe 1.5 sessions to see if they can get that lead of say 120, 130, and then put India to bat, right? Then we'll have to see how the surface kind of plays out and if India can chase down that total.
Again, fair enough. And that also sort of brings me to, how the Indian bowlers sort of plied their trade today. Harmanpreet, of the 90 overs, gave 74 overs to spin. So we saw a lot of spin happen today. Xiaomi, let's start with you. Do you think something similar will happen tomorrow as well? Like, do you see her sticking to her spinners?
Yeah, I don't quite agree to this. It's my perception, of course. I felt that the ball was getting low. I felt the pitch was doing its trick. It was just the brilliance of the batters that didn't make it so evident. And especially, when Ellis Perry was playing, she was kind of letting the ball come to the bat, and she was not really coming forward and playing, and which is a telltale sign that she was trying to negate the spin. So of course, I feel it's not really the pitch is probably not as cracked up as you would expect in a third day or a fourth day of a Wankhede. But yeah, it's still doing its job. And probably that's the reason why Harman was kind of sticking to those 70 plus overs of spin. And I'm still pretty certain that if we let this lead go a long way, we will face a lot of challenges with every single run that gets onto the board. So yeah,
fair enough. I mean, I can only sort of think if that's the case and if that's going to be the case and if that continues to be the case, boy, it's not going to be easy for our batters as well to chase anything in excess of 150. It's going to be a tough task for them, which is why, again, tomorrow, should you expect Harman to start with spin? Again, let's just go back to that question as well and close that in terms of, what India's game plan is going to be tomorrow. Xiaomi, like, do you see spinners sort of ruling the roost tomorrow as well, at least in terms of the number of overs bowled?
I think tomorrow, early on, we might get a little bit of assistance for pace. So we definitely should give Pooja a try because she has been a lead bowler in the first inning. So we can hope her to come back with some amount of grit and kind of pick up, scalp a few there. We can as well see what a short ball strategy did for Australia. So we might pick up some learnings for there from there. But largely, I feel the spin is going to dominate tomorrow. And when it comes to Australia, of course, they will be a lot more comfortable with the pace. Not as much with the spin. Of course, now they are equally equipped with the spin attack as well. The only thing which I feel is that they still have five more wickets to go. And if they are going for a win, they will try to play big, and that's when the opportunities will arise. So the trick here is to keep the Aussies below maybe 100, and then kind of take it up from there. So yeah, first session is going to be very, very crucial.
Doesn't sound easy for sure. Neha, what do you think? I mean, first of all, do you concur with those thoughts? And secondly, how is that going to happen, man?
I mean, I think what Harman is going to do is probably have like Pooja from one end and Sneh on the other. So, there's like a mix of pace and spin, not let the Aussie settle because somewhere I think they've got a grip of the pacers and, having Renuka and Pooja, operate on both ends might get a little easy for them. So, probably, mix things up with spin and pace across the ends. But I think, as you both have rightly pointed out, that first session is going to be very important. It will dictate, the flow of play, how the pitch is behaving, and how much easy or difficult it's going to be for India, chasing down that total. So yeah, either case, we're in for an interesting day's play. I hope it's not a draw and we actually get to see a result. But yeah, fingers crossed for a good day.
Fair enough. I mean, before we get to our predictions, I first want to know what do you think would your sort of ideal scenario be going into the game, heading into the game tomorrow? Neha, let's start with you on this. How do you want this game to pan out such that, it results with India winning the game come 5 p.m. 24th of December?
I think the optimistic Indian fan in me would want Australia to just get out for like 250 or 260 or something, and India chasing down a total that's like what 70 or so, which is not going to happen because we know it's Australia, right? But even if Australia somehow gets a lead of say 100 and they decide to declare, game on, let's see if we can bowl India out. I think that would also be quite fascinating because now they know what are some of the weaknesses to exploit with those short balls and try to just mix things up. So in that sense, I mean, I'd want to see an India win at all costs, but the strategies that Australia will do to stop that will be quite interesting to see. And if India wins, it will be our first win versus Australia in Test cricket. So there's a lot at stake here. But yeah, we still have an interesting days of play.
For sure. Shami, what about you? Do you sort of agree? I mean, do you think something like that can happen? What's your ideal scenario?
I think yes, ideal scenario will be exactly like this. But however, looking at the Australian side, they bat really deep. In fact, Garth has an average of 50. So we can imagine what they can do even with the lower order. So I have a feeling that they will not. They will first try to secure this game. Of course, if at all they lose, this will be the first one. He wouldn't want to have such kind of a record under her belt for her first game. So definitely they will try to bat as much as possible. And if at all they try to charge up in the beginning, there will be opportunities created. So that's where India needs to capitalize. Uh, However, I feel that Australia will wait till they get bowled out.
Jeez, man. I mean, if that's the case, yeah, we could easily see Australia shave off a session and a half, if not more. I mean, if they choose to sort of play until they get bowled out. Neha, again, prediction time now. How much do you think realistically will the Australia end up with? How many overs do you think India will have to chase whatever it is that will be in front of them?
A tricky one, but I think Australia would at least go on to say like 275, 280 realistically, because if India can get those early wickets, we can see how the match can again tilt back to India's favor, and then you'll have like a smallish target to chase, which will be challenging considering how the pitch could have a very different thing to offer tomorrow. So yeah, here's hoping for those early wickets and restricting Australia to that realistic total of say 280, 290.
Fair enough. 280, 290 is what she says, which means what India will be expected to chase about 60 plus 17 plus the 40 odd lead that they have. So 100, 110. Okay. That I feel there is a shade of optimism there. All right, but I'll sort of let that pass. No worries. Sorry, Shamni, what about you? Realistically, what do you think is going to happen? I know you did mention briefly, how it could possibly pan out. But agar aapko ek number dalna hai, if you had to put a number to what India is going to be chasing tomorrow, how much do you think will it be?
I think if India can bowl them out, and it should be 120 odd, 110, 120 odd is something that we should be maximally targeting if we have to go for a win. And yeah, I think that's what I will be at least optimistic about, that 100, 110 is maximally up the cards.
Fair
We have
enough.
gone very wrong with all our predictions till now, so let's just hope this one goes right.
That's the beauty of predictions. I've forgotten, I've sort of lost count of how many times I managed to predict something, over someone like Nikhil Bhai, someone like Gurkirat. So it all happens, it always happens. It's great fun, if anything. And yeah, I mean, let me play the devil's advocate here. Australia already are sitting on the lead of 46. Realistically, I genuinely don't see them, not scoring another 100, 120 runs, which means India could potentially be chasing in excess of 150. And for me, I don't think it's the runs itself that's a concern. It's the fact that we won't be having a lot of overs to play. This is what makes it even more trickier, because I personally think India will be chasing in excess of 150 with about 40 overs left. And if that's going to be the case, I want to see how India go about it. Will they go sort of, the Virat Kohli way ki boss, win at all costs, or closer home, maybe play like Lisa Healy ki boss, target hai apne samne, overs hai hamare paas, let's go for the kill. Let's not stick and try and grind it out and all of that. We're chasing history. Let's go for that. If that happens, then I'm all game. I'm always, I'd rather take a defeat trying to go for the win than sort of just grinding it out. But yeah, that's me. That's my personal opinion. It'll be great to watch. And like Vineet mentioned, of course, whatever the result, we might have a fascinating Christmas Eve tomorrow. Vineet, Jacob, I mean, by the way your name sounds, I'll have to sort of just assume that you're also going to be celebrating Christmas 2 days later. So Merry Christmas in advance, and let's hope Christmas Eve is a sweet one for the Indian team. It'll be great to watch. Time for us, of course, to now wrap this up. Tomorrow we will be back reviewing the game, and let's hope we'll also be talking about how India ended up winning and why Smriti was so good in that chase. That's all I'll leave at. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you so much, guys. And for those of you joining us right now, please scroll back, do check everything out, and make sure you've hit the like button. Make sure you've also subscribed to us if you haven't already. And also do give a follow. Let me make sure I get the username right. Usernames right. Sorry, it's at six pack and sixers and never on the back foot. Yeah. I guess this is where my sort of mental abilities will be tested properly. But thank you so much, guys. We have to wrap the session now. It's been great, reviewing day 3. Let's hope we'll have a great day 4 as well. Make sure you check this out. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us. Have a great evening and a good night.